I'm live. We're live, Scott. We are. Sunday night.
I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings in the movies, and I'm not proud of my address. In a torn-up town.
We're live, Scott.
We're live. This is class. This is happening.
Sounds like gold teeth, gray goose tripping in the bedroom, bloodstained walkouts, trash in the hotel room. We don't care. We're driving Cadillacs.
All right, enough with the puppets. We're alive, Scott. It's Sunday night. It's time for Sunday Night Live, in case you have not figured that out. By the way, that was not Lord. That was actually Puddle's Pity Party, the sad clown with the golden voice, singing his hit cover, Royals. It's great to have you here.
6'7", isn't he? He's a giant clown.
He's 6'7".
Yeah, he's one big clown.
Yeah, if you have no idea who we're talking to, just go to YouTube and type in Puddle's Pity Party, and you'll entertain yourself all night long. But for the next hour, you get us, and I'm Richard Nongard, and I'm here with Scott Sandlin. And every Sunday night, we get together to do a couple of things. One, to give you an experience where you get a chance to experience hypnosis online. Two, we like to teach something, talk about things that are useful and practical. And you also have a place to ask some questions. A lot of you are students in HPTI programs or the ICBCH programs, and you might have questions about your classes. And it is perfectly okay and appropriate to ask any questions here in the chat box, and Scott and I will steer you in the right direction. So it's great to have everybody here tonight. As usual, Sunday night. If you missed any of the previous weeks, below the chat box, or above the chat box, is actually a link to the archives. You can go see the last 3 months of episodes. And Scott, you're up.
Great. Hello, everybody. Richard and I, as you guys probably saw on Facebook, tonight we want to talk business and money. Last week we talked to Steve Jones, and I was really bugging him about business stuff. I was really hitting him pretty hard with financial questions and just logistical questions. And normally we'd like to go from that to something that's more therapeutic or clinical or things like that. But as Richard and I, have been planning and talking the last couple weeks about what we want to do coming up and what questions are coming in, we both kept getting distracted by, just tax stuff. And, some of Richard's got the bar business that he's got going on as well. And, we've got stuff that we're doing. And so before we would plan, we would small talk about, tax stuff, or I'm figuring out this with my accountant and all that. And it hit me that years ago I did an online conference called Hypno Summit. And we had a CPA come in and talk about tax planning for the hypnosis professional. And people loved it. A lot of people didn't want to go to it because it sounded really boring, but the recording of it was one of our most important and popular recordings and most viewed recordings because it's nuts and bolts practical. It's not the most exciting thing. It's not the best technique-y stuff. It's not any of that. It doesn't have a flashy, sexy name. But at the end of the day, running your business wisely is the difference. You can make as much money as anybody, but if you're not keeping it, what are you doing with your time? So Richard and I just said, you know what, let's do 2 business-oriented classes in a row. And tonight we're going to talk about that. But if you want to talk therapy, you want to talk, really interesting CBT, DBT, any of that stuff, you could talk with the Monkey and Richard Nongard in his HPTI class that's coming up right away on contextual hypnosis. What are the dates on that, Richard?
Well, it starts the first week of April, which is next month. Yep. And it's a 40-hour course on contextual hypnotherapy, and I guarantee it will be the most technique-oriented course that you probably ever take, the most theory-oriented course you ever take, and it'll actually change the way you do hypnosis for the rest of your life. By the way, though, before we go any further tonight, Scott, you and I were talking a little bit about taxes and things like that, because that was certainly an issue that we small talked about this week. But tonight we're not just going to talk taxes. We're going to talk about the basics of business, and this is really pretty interesting. I'm going to call it 8 or 9 years ago. I was actually speaking at a national conference of mental health professionals to their national association. And the president of the association, she and I got to know each other fairly well over previous conventions of previous years. And so we were eating dinner together, and she looked across the table with great suspicion, and she said to me, "I think you're just a businessman."
How dare she?
And I looked at her and I said, "Of course I'm a businessman. Everybody likes a businessman." And she said, "We're supposed to be helping people." And my answer to her was real simple. It's a whole lot easier for me to help my clients if at the end of the month I can pay my rent so I have a building to meet them in. The reality is that we cannot separate success in business from success in therapy. As a matter of fact, as I've always said, well, if we should be a model for our clients, what clients would want to model an unsuccessful hypnotist?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me that there are so many hypnotists who want to talk about prosperity, want to talk about succeeding, want to talk about all those good things, and then they avoid it when it comes to themselves. And just what you're saying right there about being a better practitioner. I know I'm a better practitioner when I don't have to think about the money, when I don't have to worry about the money, when I know the money's fine, and I'm focusing on the client. And that means I am much more generous with referring people out, sending people away. I can be focused on the clinical, because when I was wearing my business hat, my money hat, my all that stuff, I did that job really well, so that when I'm with the client, I can be focused on the clinical aspects of this.
All right, so let me ask a question here to those who are viewing, because the cool thing about this course is that everybody has a chance to ask any questions or give any thoughts. So I actually have a pen and paper, and I'm writing some things down here. And I've written down marketing, and I've written down pricing, and the next thing I'm writing down is staffing. That would be the people who answer your phone or you answering the phone. The next thing I'm going to write down is taxes. The next thing I'm going to write down is revenue stream, and the next thing I'm going to write down is referrals. There are an endless list. I can write down an entire list of business-related topics directly related to hypnotherapy. So what I want to see you do in the chat box is I want you to tell me and Scott what you want to talk about tonight. Where do you want us to start? What's most important to you? And so let me ask you a question, Scott. If you were new in hypnosis, opening either a part-time or a full-time practice today, what are the three most important things that you would do in preparing to open that practice or improve an existing practice, but based on your current knowledge of 15 years of doing this?
The first one, my first answer kind of encapsulates a lot, though. And my first answer is write a business plan. And I think most hypnotists don't look at how to write a business plan. They just say, well, I plan on seeing clients and collecting some money doing it. And having a real business plan and, including things like demographics, people you want to be going after as your clients, all that stuff. So I think number one. Number two, I would look at what kind of reputation and what kind of practice you really want to run in terms of brand identity. And then the third one is marketing. And marketing doesn't mean advertising. It includes advertising, but it doesn't mean that. So I would say business plan, brand identity, marketing. And I think a lot of people jump to marketing before they do the other two, and that demonstrates problems later. That would be my list. What's yours?
And I sometimes think that it's not this one goes before. Unfortunately, in business, they all have to happen simultaneously in many cases.
Sure.
I've always joked, you and I are doing a thing for IMDHA on addiction treatment. The discussion of the 12 steps will invariably come up. And the 12 steps weren't necessarily something you're supposed to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're supposed to, do them all. And it doesn't matter what the order is, as long as you keep focused on that task. And man, at different times we'll find ourselves focusing on marketing and taxes and staffing all at the same time because they're interchangeable. What the three? You asked me the question of what three things would I do based on my current knowledge. Number one, I would establish a niche. I would define my niche, and I would be an expert in my niche. Right.
I would say that's my second one with brand identity. I'm with you. Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't do that. They don't brand and they don't niche. And I did a thing with Craig Eubanks a few years ago. It's probably floating around on the internet. I don't have a copy of it, but maybe somebody does, and they'll send it to me because I kind of like to hear it. Called Niche Down and Get Rich. It's paradoxical, but the more specific we are, if we're the hypnotist who only does phantom limb pain, right, then we become the expert in that niche. And every doctor out there who treats people, every foot doctor, every diabetes doctor, you'd be surprised how many amputations there are, every veterans doctor, boom, they're going to be sending us their phantom limb pain people, and we'll have more business than we could ever handle if we were a generalist. So I'd create a niche, and I would, in fact, the perfect example of that's James Hazelrig. He has Austin's Quit Smoking headquarters, and he has made that his niche, is Austin's Quit Smoking headquarters. That's what he does, and he has been prosperous as a result. Second thing I would do, I actually did this early on. In fact, early on, my very first office was an office that was really nice that I couldn't afford, that I ended up having to move out of. But I've always had office space. I've never seen anybody in my house. I think that's a really poor idea, and there are few exceptions to that. There are a few exceptions to that, but there are very few exceptions to that. And so I would say find an office, and one that's affordable, and one that is in an area where you would like to draw your client base from, as opposed to an area that's convenient for you. And probably the third thing from a business perspective is I would organize my corporate structure, business structure appropriately right from the beginning. And we just had an issue with the bar. I have three partners in the bar and restaurant that I have, and the lead partner organized us as an LLC, and we set up all our bank accounts and our vending with different vendors and distributors and things like that. And I thought that was a mistake, but he said he had done it before that way, and I still thought it was a mistake and voiced my concerns. And about 6 or 8 weeks into this project, we dissolved the LLC. We filed articles of conversion and converted it to a corporation because it was a more appropriate structure. And people don't know the difference between a corporation, a C Corp, a subchapter S Corp, an NPO, a nonprofit organization, which you have, a partnership, an LLC or an LLP, a sole proprietorship, doing business as. And I would get a handle on what was best for me right at the very beginning, doing some research, talking to accountants.
That's a great point. And I also think if we're going to talk about that, people should know that whichever one they pick, they're not stuck in. Like you said, you could convert from one to another. When I was getting started in my private practice, I was broke. So I did a sole proprietor doing business as. But as my practice grew and I had some money in my pocket and things like that, I incorporated and I switched to an LLC. So there are stages of growth in a business, and it makes sense to kind of trade up as you hit those next tiers. But in the chat room, Ben asked about a niche, and he asked about doing what about his niche being group hypnosis sessions. And I do 6 groups a week. So that's a lot of groups, I think. I do 6 groups a week, but they're all in rehab centers. They're all in inpatient and outpatient facilities. Doing like the traveling salesman group sessions, I think is gone. I think there are very few people who can make good money doing that, and that's a long, lonely road. Like Robert Otto made a bunch of money in the late 80s doing it that way. But I don't think that's where people are making money anymore. But you could do groups, but it wouldn't be that model.
Yeah, I do think the old model of 500 people piling into the Holiday Inn Conference Center for $49 at 7 p.m. for smoking cessation and $49 at 8 p.m. for weight loss, and $79 for both sessions is a relic of the 70s and 80s. And I have not seen anybody successfully do that probably in the last 10 years.
The only guys I think that have a good angle on doing that are the stage hypnotists that have the fair gigs. Like Jim Long off, or Mark Usack, or someone like that.
But they're pulling that off in conjunction with other gigs that they have in the area. They usually have the space, they usually have the audience and the draw, versus the old model of going, I'm going to go to Binkham, Nebraska, I'm going to advertise on the radio, and there are still guys out there doing it. But, by the way, if you're a gambler, that's a great way to make a living, because if you have a tornado, a flood, bad weather, snow, ice, a holiday, a local event like the state fair that you forgot about, you lose, and you lose big time. I calculated it once. Those guys doing that were actually making a profit 1 out of 5 times, but the profit was so high that it covered their 4 losses. Most people don't have deep enough pockets to get through those 4 losses.
Right. Yeah, you have to have a bankroll to get started, right?
It's just like craps.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ben, if you're looking at doing group stuff, I would look at doing local group stuff that's recurring, and then that goes back to having a reputation and stuff like that. But being putting that show on the road, yeah, I think those days are gone. Suni asked about people having a business name, like goal-oriented hypnotherapy, or using their personal name. What are your thoughts on that, Richard?
Well, I've always been Tulsa Hypnosis, and the reason why is nobody can spell Nongard, and nobody's Googling Richard Nongard. What they're Googling is hypnotist in Tulsa or stop smoking in Tulsa. They don't know who I am. So I'm not going to, I might brand my educational products to my name, but I don't want to brand my hypnotherapy practice to my name because nobody knows who I am. I want to brand it to the city. I'm a big fan of geography, Tulsa hypnosis, or Southern California hypnosis, or Scottsdale hypnosis, or Binkham, Nebraska hypnosis, because that's what people are Googling. So why not have my company name, my center name, what people are actually Googling, or maybe North Texas anxiety hypnosis or something like that. That's what people are Googling, so I think that's where you should be. If they knew Richard Nongard, well, then they wouldn't be looking for me. They'd just call me.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm the same way. I have NewportBeachHypnosis.com and a couple other things like that. I chose the name Goal-Oriented Hypnotherapy while I was still in college, just based on domain names that were available that were easily abbreviatable. So I have Goal-Oriented Hypnotherapy that goes to GO Hypnotherapy. I like the name of Go Hypnotherapy as a 19-year-old, and so I grabbed it off that. But yeah, I think geography-based business name makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm there's a time and a place for personal branding, but it's if you have real deep pockets or if you're in a specialty niche. So I don't like goal-oriented hypnotherapy.
I didn't think you did.
No, generally, happy cloud, hypnosis. People aren't Googling that. I like terms that people are Googling. Okay, so they're Googling Scottsdale hypnosis or
that's true.
Geographic names, and so really that's why I have steered people towards the direction of picking a company name and a domain name that reflects the geography that people are Google searching.
And I say the same thing. Fortunately, I've got the advantage that when you search the geography, my name still comes up first because of the work I've done in search engines. But it's much faster to get to the front of the line by putting it in the name itself. So I lucked out.
This discussion, I have subliminalscience.com, which is one of the largest hypnosis sites on the internet. And I've told you many times, if this were 10 years ago, I would not name my business subliminalscience.com. First of all, nothing to do with hypnosis. Second of all, people can't spell the word subliminal, which is why I do own the misspellings. Third of all, it's just, in fact, I used to own a lot of really cool domain names just because I thought they were cool and there was that speculative period. For example, I actually owned flipfantasia.com for about 15 years. I finally got rid of some of my more useless domain names. The way Subliminal Science came out is, I don't know why I owned it, but I did, and so I needed to figure out how to build a CS cart, shopping cart, so I did, and then I just left it there, and so it's been Subliminal Science ever since.
By the way, in the chat, people are talking about having an office space and all that stuff. Yeah, having an office space that has a group room is pretty cool. Dick said, does anyone have a clinic or office big enough for groups? HPTI is opening a office. I think we're going to get it next week and then start construction the following week, and we're going to have it. So it's really exciting, and I think we're getting it next week, and we'll have 4 offices for seeing clients, a big office for Richard, Clark, and I, and a big classroom. And so if you're an HPTI student or have been an HPTI student and want to come find a place that we're going to give you your clients and help you get your own clients, that's what we're up to now. So doing those kinds of things and getting internships is, and that's something else, is internships or apprenticeships and mentorship. That's something that neither of us mentioned, Richard. The importance of mentorship, apprenticeship, and internship early in our careers is, I think, an important piece.
Yeah, you know, I went to lunch last week with Dean P. Montgomery, who did my supervision when I was in graduate school. And, you know, in the world of mental health, it is a requirement of licensure that we have mentorship, internship, et cetera. And it's not true in hypnosis, but it's something we can take advantage of. I think we definitely should. And HPTI, of course, does offer that as part of their program. Let me go back for a minute to the office space thing, Scott.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, when people are thinking about getting an office space, it can be real overwhelming to drive by big fancy buildings, see somebody's name or number out front, a real estate agent, and then call them and then go see. And I just want to stress a couple of things. I've leased a lot of office space over the years, and trust me, unless you're in some weird place like, you know, Newport Beach, California, but, you know, or Manhattan, New York, you know, Melissa Tears. But for the rest of us who live anywhere else in the country other than Silicon Valley, Southern California, or Manhattan, there's a lot of office space because what's happening is companies are using technology to decrease the need for their office space. Most of these big skyscrapers, you can see out my window here and see the city skyline behind me, and most of these skyscrapers are sitting empty. And office space is easy to find. And even if you lease a small 320 square foot office, a one-room office, only lease in an office building that has a conference room available to those who lease. So, for example, I teach often with Roger Moore in Seattle, and he has a very small office in downtown Seattle. So it's a
2 offices, by the way.
2-room office. Well, he's got one in Bainbridge, but he's got one in Seattle. Yeah. And his Seattle office is very small because it's downtown. You know, it's basically a 1.5 room office, I want to call it.
It's a little turquoise room.
Right. But he's got, in the building, I think his office is on the 15th floor, but down on the 2nd floor they built a conference room. And any tenant can, you know, schedule time to use that conference room. So you don't need a space for your group rooms unless you're going to run groups all day long. You're going to almost always lease a building that, as an incentive to get you to lease office space, gives you free Wi-Fi and gives you a conference room. And if you're not getting that, move to a different building because somebody else is going to give you those amenities in order to help sign you up.
And what they'll do is they'll say you get a certain number of hours per month, right? So you get 6 hours per month or 10 hours per month. Or it's enough to have 1 or 2 classes, you know, a month. You know, if you want to do like a half-day class or something like that. If you want to do like an evening thing, well, then it gives you enough to do something every week. So it's absolutely doable.
And in the last building I was in, 6-story building, I never saw one person use the conference room ever, other than that. Yeah.
We have in my office, we've got one conference room that's often used for legal depositions. And so a lawyer will come in, set up a video camera, and they do the deposition when they're gone. And they come in and do that once a month, twice a month, just like that. No one ever uses it.
Now, every Sunday night we get together to do a couple things, give you a chance to experience hypnosis, a chance to talk about hypnosis, technique, theory, idea. Tonight we're talking about business because you can't be successful at helping clients if we can't pay our own bills at the end of the month. So that's why we're talking a little bit about business. Last week we talked about marketing with Steve Jones, and next week we'll get on track with some more clinical stuff. But I do think this is, sometimes people say to me, therapists say, well, how come, I don't like marketing, I just like helping clients. Well, if you're doing your job right, you're getting rid of your clients. You need new clients. If you're not doing your job right, and your clients are staying with you forever because they're dependent on you, you're really not helping them. So you have to know how to do marketing and sales and business, because ultimately you're getting rid of your clients. We also offer some things that are useful to you, and we're going to offer you tonight. I don't think I did post it. I posted at the top of the video a link. It says the business of hypnosis, but I've been really busy all day long, driving aimlessly around the state. So this link to the Hypno Store, where it says the business of hypnosis, is actually Scott's MP3 called Success is a Game, which is a hypnosis session for business success. Below that, this is all above the video, by the way, is a link to the HPTI class on contextual hypnotherapy that starts next week, and you will want to be a part of that class. But we try to give away something every week as a thank you for participating in this course. And I usually put it underneath the video. I don't know why I put it above the video. I'll move it to where it's supposed to go after the end of class. But that's above there. What's on that Success is a Game hypnosis MP3? And Scott, how can actual hypnosis sessions help us to master the business of hypnosis?
So the idea of is we like games because there's a score and you can tell who's winning and losing, and there's real-time feedback, right? So I don't care if it's basketball or Monopoly or Pac-Man or Zelda, there's a way to measure success or failure. And knowing that there's a way to measure is really nice, because, sorry, my nephew has called me 4 times in the last 2 minutes. So there's a way. We like that idea of keeping score. We like that idea of playing games. We like that idea, and you'll spend money on games. You'll lose money to go do something that's recreational that doesn't give you anything in your life because you like that feeling. And if we could take the stuff that will make you a successful human being in your career or weight loss or whatever it is that's the metric that we're calling success, and you define your own success, as soon as we get that defined, we figure out the way that we can keep score, and then succeeding is a process with real-time feedback. And as we do that way, you selfishly have fun succeeding. So that's the basics of the recording. But another thing that you mentioned that I kind of want to clarify for some of the people in the room was marketing. Marketing and advertising are not the same thing. I hate advertising. I like marketing. I do it differently. I had a conversation with my tax person today, and we were talking about my taxes and my marketing expenses and all those things. My marketing expenses has nothing to do with advertising. My marketing expenses is going out to dinner with a doctor. My marketing expense is, having lunch with a couple therapists and picking up the tab. And sometimes it's my turn to pick up the tab, sometimes it's their turn to pick up the tab. But that's generating the relationship, right? And to me, there's a big part of marketing that is relationship generation. And so I look at that as the way I do my marketing. And I'm better that way. Because, quite frankly, when I got started in my private practice, I didn't look good on paper, and I didn't know how to advertise. So when you combine that 1-2 punch, it's pretty tricky. So I had to do it slightly differently for that reason. So look at marketing as more than just advertising.
Sure. Now, awesome. Sure. We've had a pattern interrupt. What happened here is you said that your nephew called you 4 times in the last 2 minutes, which made me look at my phone.
Yeah.
That's when I looked at the text message that you sent me that said, what? Because I actually sent you the message with the address to the bar rather than the guy whose number I was supposed to. So I sent him the correct message. So, talk about pattern interrupt. By the way, one of the things to be successful in business is don't be distracted by all the things going on around you. Just be mindful so you don't send your important messages to the wrong person.
Do one thing at a time and do it well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see. Ben has asked a question. Richard, how important is an email list to a private practice? I get your occasional emails, and I love them. I wonder if you send similar ones to your clients. No, I can't think of any time I've ever sent a client an email other than at the end of a session, I'm going to send you an email to give you this resource and this resource. The reason why is they're a therapy client. I view that differently than people who potentially buy products or books or CDs or things like that. And I'm mindful of privacy. So they've given me written permission. That's really important. In my informed consent, it gives me permission to contact them via email. Because I don't want anyone to say it violated their confidentiality, and now people know they're seeing a hypnotist because they left their mailbox open with email from the hypnosis center. But I only email my current clients who I'm seeing, like follow-up, treatment, care, plans, things like that. Now, here's where I do think an email list comes into play on a local level. I'm going to give you a crash course summary in marketing on the internet using social media. There are all kinds of things that you can do on a local level. I have a group, and the group is called Tulsa is Awesome. It's on Facebook. It has nothing to do with any of my businesses. It's just to celebrate Tulsa being awesome. And who doesn't want to celebrate Tulsa being awesome, right? So billions of people have joined that group because Tulsa is awesome, right? Now I can drop by whenever I want to, whether it's once a month, once a week, once a day, and I can tell them about one of the reasons why Tulsa's awesome is because of this business. I actually used to use that Tulsa's Awesome group as a marketing tool. I haven't really in the last year or two, but the group is still a vibrant group because some moderators came on board. They're kind of community development guys, Chamber of Commerce guys, and they post stuff in there all the time. But I know that anytime I wanted to, I could say another reason Tulsa's awesome. A new hypnosis clinic is opening up, on March 3rd. So one of the keys to local marketing strategy is to not. I see people make a Facebook page for Richard's Hypnosis Center. No, why in the heck would anybody like that? Okay, well, they would like Tulsa is awesome, and then you can let people know occasionally why Tulsa is awesome is because there's this awesome hypnosis clinic in it. So it's much smarter. The other thing you can do is you can give away something like an MP3 and build an email list and then send email to people who are not your clients about your services. And we could probably dedicate a whole class to that. In fact, I think Jason Linnett in his hypnosis business boot camp actually does some training on that subject, and that is something that's certainly worth looking into and getting. I do recommend that. By the way, I don't get a kickback. I don't. He's not on his hypnosis business boot camp is not on the Hypno Store, and it's just a good product that gives some of those practical ideas for local social media marketing.
I agree completely. It's a great course, and we're looking through the business stuff in Jason's class.
Hillary asked when the contextual hypnotherapy class begins. It begins the first week of April at HPTI. And it's a 4-week class, and we meet once a week online. There are about, I don't remember how many hours, 20 or 30 hours of pre-recorded videos. Then there's textbook assignments. Everybody who's ever taken that course has told me it has changed their perspective. Even those who disagree with me on theory of hypnosis like the course because it challenges them. A great example of that, I'm sure you wouldn't mind me saying, Michael Love and I are like two rams back and forth on the philosophy of hypnosis. And over the years, we've become good friends as a result of meeting each other in that class. And although we never came to agree on things, we came to learn from each other. And it really is one of those challenging classes.
Yeah, it was really the idea of a priest and rabbi who become friends. They're never going to convert each other, but they're going to respect each other's faith and their commitment to the faith.
By the way, SUNY got a great idea here. You built a website. You invite local natural healers to list their events, classes, and services. Similar idea? Absolutely. Realize that there is no such thing as competition if you're the best at what you do. And that even if there is competition, there's 7 billion people on the planet Earth. There's actually enough people for all of us to help. There aren't enough helpers. And so you may as well build a website that brings in other holistic health practitioners, et cetera, to help people. Oh, look, Michael Love is here actually in the room. So Michael Love gets a shout out as guest number 779. By the way, it always makes me smile because he and I comment on each other's Facebook stuff, and we've carried that friendship over for the last year or two.
Good old Mike. Hi, Mike. Yeah, so talking business, talking shop, talking all these things. One of the things I want to bring up is looking at money. I see a lot of hypnotists talking about how much money their practice makes or how much money they make seeing clients or selling CDs or any of that stuff. And I think it's important to look at your business with a different perspective than that. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep, right? And so I talk to hypnotists, and one of the things that I pride myself on in my practice is that my overhead's very low, and that's because it needed to be at the beginning, because I was broke at the beginning. And I've just been able to build up the income without really having to build up the expenses. So if you talk to somebody who spends $10,000 to make $4,000, or you find someone who only spends $1,000 but makes $6,000, it's easy to see how this math works. You've got to figure out for you, not just gross. You need to look at what your margins are, and as you're looking at your margins, you can actually start planning things more completely. Richard and I were talking about this. Oh, the puppets are back.
Well, Gar said he missed the puppet show, and so I don't want Gar to ever feel like he's left out. So, so you continue to talk, and what I'll do is I'll do the motions of what you're saying with the puppets.
You're doing an interpretive dance of puppets. So one of the things Richard and I were talking about with his
really mouse holding a monkey.
Yeah, try to mouse with a monkey. One of the things Richard and I were talking about was with his bar, where he was talking about how much money he makes per bottle of beer sold, where that's okay. How much does the beer cost itself? How much is taxes? How much does he have to pay a bartender to actually give the beer to someone? How much is his electricity bill for that? All those things all come into that one beer, and is it going to be $5, $6, or $7? The answer to that really matters. So when we talk about how much you should charge for your private practice or your products, Steve Jones is charging $20,000. I'm not doing that yet. Maybe I will start. Who knows? Maybe he's influenced me, and I'm going to do that. But for now, it's picking a number that you can defend. It's picking a number that you feel good saying without having to defend, and that's something we talked about before. As soon as you're talking about how someone calls you and says, how much money do you, what do you cost? How much does this cost? As soon as you tell them the number, stop talking. Stop talking. Don't tell them the number and then start telling them why that number's okay. Tell them the number and then shut up. And then just be okay with that number. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, change the number to a number you feel comfortable doing that. And if the number changing doesn't help, change yourself so that you can feel comfortable being the product or the service you offer being that valuable. So that's a piece.
So what you're saying, Scott, is people who are in hypnosis need to learn to close the deal. And I recommend a book. It's a real simple book, which is Sales Closing for Dummies. It's actually a really good book.
Books like that, it's a great idea. I've never read that one, but I bet it is good.
Right. Now, there was Ben had a great thought here. Ben, did you read that? Ben said, look, when's the right time to expand? His business expanded too quickly, and so he expanded, and then when things slowed down to a more normal pace, he had a lot of stress and anxiety about having expanded too quickly. Now he's back to where he should be, and as business grows, he's thinking about not expanding this time. And I've been there. I've made the decision both to expand and despand at various times. I'm actually very comfortable not expanding.
I get that.
I like to be as busy as I can be without the need to expand because then I feel overwhelm, and I don't like that feeling of overwhelm.
I also don't feel like I'm leveraging myself, so because I've done that too. So I would say I wouldn't expand unless, number one, I could afford to fail, right? Is this a calculated risk? Can I afford to take the loss on this expansion and then pull back and go back to normal? Yeah, buy the book, Sales Closing for Dummies. Yes, you should buy the book. And
you should on our audience, Scott.
What's that?
Albert Ellis would say you shouldn't should on people.
I shouldn't should on people?
Yeah.
I should just say, yes, buy the book. Not you should buy the book. Go buy the book.
Yeah.
Like that?
Sure.
So Ben, one of the things I would say is, can you afford to take the risk? If it doesn't work, are you going to live under a bridge? And if that's the case, definitely don't. I don't think it's worth risking in my experience. The next piece is, like Richard said, I don't want to be stressed and too busy. And I do a lot of stuff, but I always keep it in a framework that doesn't feel overwhelming. So,
all right, so every Sunday night we get together. Sure, what?
I was just saying, oh my gosh, it's time. It's already 7:00.
Yeah, I just noticed the clock, and I want to make sure we have a chance to experience hypnosis tonight. Scott and I have planned some things for the near future on the business of hypnosis that can really cover some of these things. By the way, Joe asked, what percentage do you expect to get from one-on-one sessions versus selling courses, recordings, books, etc.? Now, obviously, I make the bulk of my money selling courses, books, recordings, because I've been producing products since 1994, and I own, my primary business isn't even hypnosis. People don't know that. It's actually owning a continuing education company for mental health professionals. So obviously I've written books that aren't related to hypnosis, books on leadership and business, books on traditional psychotherapy. So obviously I earn the bulk of my money doing that, and I continue to see clients to a large extent, because I don't think you can be an effective teacher if you're not seeing clients. And so I think that you should always learn from somebody who actually does see clients. But I encourage every therapist to make at least some of their money in products, whether that's simply in MP3s, hypnosis recordings, a book that they write, or really any other product. Because passive income can be very important to something that should be a part of everyone's business model, even if it's a much smaller percentage of their business income than it would be for somebody, obviously, who owns a professional continuing education company for mental health professionals. Glenn asked a question here. Doesn't it mean it's time to increase your rates? It's always time to increase your rates. What do you think of that, Scott?
Glenn's 100% saying, it's time to expand, I'm busy, all that stuff. I love the idea of when you're seeing as many clients as you want to see, or you're starting to feel like you've got too many, raise your price. The problem is I did that last year, and I got more clients coming in. And Richard and I were talking about it when I went from $175 an hour to $200 an hour. When I did that, Richard said, you're just going to get a ton of cash clients now coming in. And he was totally right. And I've got, 4 clients a week, 6 clients a week that just pay me in cash. So one of the challenges my wife and I have is what to do with all the $100 bills, because it's a wonderful first world problem. Believe me, I love complaining about it. But just having that many just cash clients come in, because it's a round number, that in my community, which is a whole thing on how much you charge per hour. Richard and I totally agree. A big part of that is geographical. And in Newport Beach, you can charge $200 a session, and people just don't blink. And in other places, you can charge $100, and that's just cost of living stuff. But yeah, raise your rates. More people start showing up. Totally happens. Oh, hi, Jason Lynette. We were saying nice things about you. Did you hear it?
Wow.
I didn't know you were here.
See, all these people are just lurking in the background. So that
we better not say bad stuff about somebody.
We'll save the bad stuff for later. But hey, I posted a link to a book called $1 Million Consulting, and I think every therapist should read this book. It's not a therapy book. It's about consultants in the business world. But basically, the premise of the book is every year evaluate your clients and your business, and then fire the bottom 20%, right? And so you're always replacing that 20% with a new 20%, and you're always moving ahead. And the premise of the book is that you can become $1 million a year consultant using the techniques that are offered in the book. And I think there are a lot of things that
I just did that. I just did that January 1st. I fired 2 drug rehab centers, and I brought in new ones because I took the ones that didn't want to give me a raise. And I just said, you need to give me a raise at this much. They said, you're already the highest paid person. I said, I know. Now I want this raise. They said, we can't give it to you. I said, cool, this is my replacement. I'm leaving. And I left, and 2 other centers took their place the next month. So you should absolutely do what he just said.
One other thing, I guess it looks like we can just go all night, Scott, but Hillary mentioned something. Actually, the issue you're talking about is called structuring, and it deals with figures of more than $10,000. I know for hypnotists, having 800 or 1,200 in cash isn't going to draw the attention of anyone. And of course, I own a bar, so we deposit huge amounts of cash every single night. So what you want to do is you want to avoid the problem of structuring. And if you have enough cash, that's an issue. I can't imagine it would be for a hypnotist if it's not for a bar. Then what you want to be able to do is you want to talk to your accountant about how to go about documenting that. But yes, it is an issue in increments of if it looks like you're trying to put more than $10,000 by sneaking small amounts in, and that's what the issue is. But for the hundreds of dollars or even $1,000 here and there that a hypnotist has, it's probably not going to draw anyone's attention. But if you're concerned, talk to an accountant to make sure you document it. Yeah, the issue is, all right, does it look like you're depositing amounts to avoid having to report the $10,000? That's called structuring. But it's, most of
and that's what the cheating word was there, Hillary. So the person, it looked like, just reading the chat, by the way, for people in the replay, it looked like they were putting in amounts that were small enough to not be noticed as the 10,000, and that's what that looked like. Go ahead, everyone, take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, if you haven't already done so, just close your eyes. And a couple of you are just taking a moment to get settled in your seat there to be nice and comfortable, and that's absolutely perfect. Because what I'd like to talk about is a very simple thing today. I just want to talk to you about the idea of wanting and desire. Just the idea of wanting and desire. And when I think of wanting and desire, I think of a little kid at Christmas. Now, in my case, with my memories, it's me being a little boy, and maybe for you it's a little boy or a little girl, or maybe it's one of your own children, but that idea of a kid at Christmas. And you know how there are those times where there's that one toy that defines the year. It defines it. It's the Beanie Baby, or it's, the Cabbage Patch Kid, if you go back far enough, or whatever it is. It's the toy that's most important that year. And you can think back to a time where there was the thing you wanted most. There's that thing you wanted most, and you walked down the hallway or down the stairs or came around the corner or opened your bedroom door and you looked at the Christmas tree and, oh my gosh, there's the thing you wanted most. It was the roller skates. It was the bicycle. It was the G.I. Joe. Whatever it was, it's the thing. And you can think about, maybe you were the kind of kid who was jumping up and down and saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Maybe you were the kind of kid who forgot to say thank you because you were so excited. Maybe you're the kind of kid who started giving a lecture to everyone in the room on why your toy was so great. Maybe it was just your own world, and you were gone completely. You didn't say thank you. You didn't give a lecture. You didn't do anything. You just appreciated the toy. Whatever the toy is, I want you to notice something, that 2 years later, that wasn't the important toy anymore. You wanted something else. Because that old toy, that was a kid's toy. It wasn't cool anymore. But now it was this new thing. And maybe you even got that one. And a couple of years later, that broke and you didn't fix it, or you left it at Grandma's house and you forgot it. And then the next year it was something else. And then you sold that at a garage sale, or you gave it as a hand-me-down to a friend or a family member. And there was the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that isn't about being materialistic. It's about growing up. It's about your desires changing. It's about your tastes changing. But you know what didn't change? The feelings. The feelings of excitement and wanting. The feeling of gratitude and connection when you got it. That feeling of appreciation. The feelings don't change. Desire isn't changing. Wanting isn't changing. It's just what you pointed at. I'd like you to think about what you're pointing your desires at right now, what you point those feelings at. Now, maybe it's something materialistic, like a sweater or a car. Or maybe it's like that expression, it's better to give than receive. It's watching that other person open the present. It's watching that other person open the present. And as they do, you see the look on their face. And you knew that face was coming. So you were excited all week. That's why they say it's better to give than receive, because that moment lasts longer for the giver. Because they get to experience it with the advantage of knowing. And so maybe that's what you pointed at. Maybe you pointed at seeing clients. Maybe you pointed at spending time with your family. Maybe you pointed at something else. And I want you to begin to become more and more aware of what you point your desires at. And to remember that for many of us, we're very, very lucky to be in a profession that emotionally rewards us, that satisfies us and allows us to feel like we're helping people. And just think about being successful at that company, that business, that private practice, in the same way of getting what you want. Getting what you want, and then wanting it once you have it. Enjoying the process of succeeding as well as the success itself. Letting this be the thing you want. So you're willing to go get it. Because this is not about easy and hard. It's not. This is about worth it. Because as a little kid, you would clean your room if it meant you got to have a friend spend the night. You would wash the car if it meant your parents would drive you to the movie theater. You would do the chores if it meant you got the thing that was worth it. You just had to have the right payoff, the right worth it. And if you have that in helping others using hypnosis, if you have that in running a successful private practice, what are you willing to do more? What are you willing to do better? What are you willing to learn to change so that you can do a better job of getting more of what you want? And you can just imagine what it's going to be like. 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months from now, or any time in between when you've been doing exactly that. When you've been doing a better job long enough to see the results. And oh my gosh, the momentum. Just notice the momentum. Now it's really just rolling, and it's easier. Getting it started was a little bit of work, but you are so glad you did it. And that feeling, you get to just keep enjoying. You're getting what you want. And every time someone says thank you, every time someone sends a referral, every time someone calls or comes in and says, I heard you helped my neighbor, and they said you're the person for the job. What that means, or when the person calls and says, I want you to help my child because I trust you. What it feels like to have earned those thoughts, those experiences, that reputation, that success in helping others. And to want that badly enough that you're going to do what it takes. To want that badly enough to do what it takes. Because in just a little bit, I'm going to count it from 1 to 3, and when I get to 3, you can open your eyes. Bring all of this with you. Bring all of this. What it makes sense. Bring all of this in a way that's going to help you have fun with this success. With 1, 2, 3, eyes open. Right back in the room. There we go. A quick visualization, a quick hypnosis experience, and we get the Hypno Monkey saying, good night, everybody. We do this every Sunday night, and as always, I'd like to say, if you enjoy this class, tell your friends about it. If you enjoy this class, please keep sending us questions. You guys are doing a great job of emailing us questions and topics you want covered, and we're going to do our best to get to all of those and every one of them. Please keep asking, please keep requesting, please keep sharing this. This is a resource because you guys make it a resource. Thank you very much. Richard, have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for participating. See you next time. Same channel, same place.